Whoa, there's lots of people in here.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up, bro?
How's it?
How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. How about yourself, man?
Doing well, doing well. Enjoying this ride of life, parenthood, and entrepreneurship.
That's a good way to put it.
Yes.
So my name is Deevo, and I am the Chief Experience Officer of the brand Storyteller.
Awesome. So, Devo, we'll kick off and just give us a little bit of a kind of cloud level as far as what it is that you do, and then Clifford and I will kind of take turns firing off some questions over the next couple minutes for you.
Okay, great. In a nutshell, I help founders who are at inflection points in their life, and that can be personally, that can be professionally, that can be in relationships. I'm working with a couple of people who are post-divorce and really have no idea how to step back into the world really outside of their spouse that they spent 20 years with one, 30 years with another. But really, it centers around inflection points and what comes next in your trajectory. What is it you're trying to accomplish with your life? And I mix a bit of neuroscience, psychology, and then my own structured elements where we break down the human on a human level so we can understand how you got to where you are and then rebuild that so that you have a strategy and a blueprint to kind of step into the next phase of your life.
I love it.
What got you into that?
Me?
You were your first.
I was
patient.
my own experiment. Yeah, I kept running up against loops. I realized that I was on a loop in a lot of different areas of my life, relationships, financially, my career, parenting, all these different things. And while I was having success on paper, I was unhappy inside. I was unfulfilled inside. I kept sort of seeing the same patterns present themselves over and over. And so rather than blaming everybody else like I had done traditionally, I decided to all right, there's one common denominator in this situation right now, and it always seems to be Devo. So what does that mean? So I started meeting with coaches and therapists and doing hypnosis and human design work and all these different things. And I started to really realize that at the center of all of this, every choice that I'd ever made, every decision I'd ever made, I was the single mitigating factor that I had control of. And so I started to take a look at the decision-making process, my traumas that I wasn't even aware of, unconscious beliefs. And it's crazy because 95% of the decisions that we make on a daily basis are unconscious decisions that we don't even consciously think about. How we react to people, how we respond to our partners, the decisions that we make in business, our financial scarcity, all those things are like unconscious decisions that were based years and years in our development. And I never realized that trauma, have you ever read The Body Keeps the Score? I never realized that our body held on to all these things and really was driving every decision we make. So I was like, well, shit, if I'm going to do this stuff, let's use me as the guinea pig and see how I can unpack it and then reprogram it and see what happens. And so, yeah, here it is. I'm the result.
I love it.
Nice.
I gotta say, I gotta tell you, man, I absolutely love it because, one of the things is Clifford and I are all about accountability and transparency. One of the things in this show is we're really vulnerable about things, and I think for both of us, I don't want to speak for you, Clifford, but we've evolved a lot because of this show, and not because we've taught other people. We've learned a lot how to communicate with each other, a lot about ourselves, and I just pulled up your LinkedIn while you were talking, and you've been doing this for 10 years, man.
Yeah, I got a bit under my belt.
That's awesome.
It's wild. But the crazy thing is that the journey never ends. I mean, there's just one layer after the next, right? I mean, I heard you talking, Clifford, and we've talked before. It's where does it stop? And it just doesn't stop and that's not to say that you're never sated. It's simply to say that there's always a new level for you to accomplish something different, or a different impact you could make on someone's life, or a different fracture you could rebuild in your own life. And it's just a sort of a never-ending iterative game, which is kind of the beauty and the beast at the same time.
I love it.
Yeah, it's the beauty of the duality of life. Yes.
Yeah.
Funny, I've never not too many of you talk about that, so I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
I actually close the episode usually talking about the beauty and destruction of this journey that we're all on together. You know what I mean? It's really
funny story. I was at a friend of mine's 50th birthday party a few weeks ago, and you know, sort of how people get attracted to each other. There's like different conversations going on throughout the party, and I always find myself in the weird corner because it's like I don't really drink, I don't really watch a lot of football. That was sort of like the centerpiece of the party, and not making a judgment, it's just not my thing. Anyway, I was having this weird conversation about existentialism and reptiles and the Anunnaki and all these things, and there was like 2 or 3 of us in the corner having this conversation, and it was so funny because other people would kind of like come up to us and kind of hear the conversation. And some people would be like, U-turn right away. And some people would be like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? And other people would like lean in and be like, wait, this is kind of interesting. What's going on over here? So it's just sort of funny, like different things, different strokes for different folks. You said duality. And I was like, ooh, duality. What is he talking about? Let's talk about that.
I love that you picked up, because I use duality intentionally as a trigger to find out if we're going down that path. So you nailed it. And I would love to nerd out with you on some Anunnaki one day, man.
Oh man, that's a whole different rabbit hole.
I'm full board, man. I definitely want to do that. You and I are going to have a separate session. We're just going to nerd out on that, man.
Oh man, that's a deep hole to go down. That's what she said. Anyway, sorry.
All right, so
This is a PG show or a non-PG? Sorry.
No, hey, don't worry. There's a lot of, you know, we'll be dropping some bombs, you know.
I have Tourette's and no filter or both. So
exactly. So let's actually talk about that. Like I'm going to stop for a second after this one, Clifford. I'll let you kind of jump in, but I want to kind of gear this in a direction of, let's talk about how important the storytelling of it is and how much vulnerability. And let's talk about, because it's a lot of things about this show as well as the other show I have, Ready to Drink, where we both interview founders about the stories behind how these businesses come up. And that's what Clifford and I do here as well. We go back to, you know, childhood and leading up to, and it's amazing when we hear these stories. Sometimes these founders, they don't realize all the connections, and they realize it sometimes in real time with Clifford and I on camera. So it's awesome to talk to somebody that's like, this is it, and this is why. And so let's go into that. And let's educate everybody on why your story does matter, even if it is that you sell widgets and paper clips.
I mean, it's literally everything. If you just think about yourself and the relationships you formed, whether it's your partner, your domestic partner, or your business partner, or even the podcast, the co-joining that the two of you have done together, there was something about each of you that compelled one of you to decide that you could enjoy each other's company, whether it was your intellectual pursuit, or maybe you have commonality in sports. I don't know what it is, but each of you have attributes that you've developed over the years, and those attributes were based upon experiences, and those experiences are the stories that you tell yourself and the stories that you tell other people, and that's what ultimately attracts your audience to your space. So, right, whether it was your partner or your business partner or the people who buy from you, they're buying they may not even know it. It's an unconscious pattern, right? Like everything is an energy vortex, right? So everything's energy, right? So whatever energy you're putting off is the type of energy you're going to get back. And the story that you tell to people is the story that some people are going to receive and resonate with. Some people are not going to resonate with my story. Some people are going to be like, dude, he's way too loud and obnoxious. I don't want anything to do with that cat. But other people are going to hear my message and hear my stories and like, holy shit, that's exactly the same thing that I went through, whatever that story is. And so we use storytelling to connect with other people. And it's not that we're sitting around saying, you know, one long day, four score and 20 years ago. It's sort of like, this is how I got here. These are the traumas that I had. This is the transparency that I'm willing to share. These are the moments that I want to be vulnerable about my trajectory and the steps that I took to build my business, whether it's widgets or storytelling or marketing or branding or race car driving, whatever it is. Everybody has something that they can share about how they created what they created. And in the storytelling, you find the people that are attracted to those stories, and that's how you attract. It's like magnetic for people. So, and it also can be a repel, but most of the time you want to be magnetic about it, right? Hopefully. But it's like there's an argument to be made that humans, and you know, I don't really necessarily believe in the idea of evolution, but the adaptations that we have made over time all centered around sitting around a campfire, metaphorically and literally telling stories. It's how tribes connected. It's how they formed bonds. It's how communities came together. It's like fireplace storytelling is the bond that brings people together.
Yep. I want to ask a question about transparency. So you were talking about transparency, and there was a weird realization that I made in my journey. One of my core values is transparency. I like to be very open, and I've learned to be open with the people who are open to being open. And so in a transparency sense, I've noticed when I'm open about my stuff and they're open about their stuff, we can both leave better because of it, because we have information and we're transferring that information across one another. Do you ever get that people have trouble with being transparent? Like that issue of transparency, not only with others, but with themselves in a really big way.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I think I'd be lying if I said even I didn't struggle with it from time to time. Like you sort of run up against that buffer of what should I share and what should I not share, what's valuable and what's not valuable. So, I mean, we practice transparency every single day, whether we realize it or not. Sometimes I'm not as transparent with my younger daughter as I would be with my older daughter because she's not going to receive the information the same way, right? So we're always sort of making these instantaneous decisions on what we want to share and what's worth sharing and what's not worth sharing and what might be too vulnerable to share because we might have shame around it. So, again, if you're practicing becoming more vulnerable with yourself, that's going to lead to being more transparent with people. But I don't think that we always want to just sort of be like oral vomit 24/7. I think we sort of have to read the room, understand our audience, and understand the messaging that we deliver. And rather than necessarily being transparent, I would say having sort of a metric around who we are as an identity so that we can show up honestly and with integrity all the time rather than trying to like fool people or bamboozle people or being inauthentic or disingenuous rather than sort of like I don't necessarily want to say, sorry if I'm complicating this. I don't necessarily want to say like, I'm just going to be so transparent and vulnerable and share everything with everybody. Rather, I sort of take the approach, what's the most honest and genuine way to show up in this particular situation, given the audience that I'm delivering a message to or the people that I'm working with. Like, for example, when I'm working with clients, sometimes I'm going to be in your face and I'm going to call you on your bullshit 24/7 because I know you could take it. And you guys seem like you could probably handle candid feedback. But I have a couple of clients who are like, they get a little ruffled under the feathers. So I got to be like, reel it back in a little bit and like, okay, how can I diplomatically say right now you're being a dickhead? So, like I can't be fully transparent all the time. So you sort of have to read the room. But again, my intentions are always pure and honest, which are to just help you find your North Star. But sometimes I have to police myself a little bit. Does that make sense? Is that a good way to answer that?
That makes perfect sense. And I do like your intentions are always pure and policing yourself. Because it's like one thing that I learned, I come from pure intention, and when I'm not in that place, I go hide. I go get I got to get away from everybody because I'm not good for me or anybody at this moment.
Well, that's good self-awareness.
Yeah, thank you. And as I navigated it, you need the skill and the intention together for 100%. Something to actually happen. Because you can have intentions, but if your skill's not there, it gets a little bit sticky.
100%. And it's a really great point because it's skill and skill at reading the room. Like you need to understand your audience. You need, again, like in every situation, I always tell people, read the room, man. Like you don't want to come in with like a bull in a china closet if you're surrounded by a china closet. But if you need to come in with tenacity and vigor because you're on the soccer field, like that's the time. There's a time and place for everything. Like you just have to read the room and be discerning enough to understand what your audience can receive. And then what's really cool about that is like, I have a really good, one of my God-given gifts is I know how to touch people's buttons. Like I can really intuitively sort of see where people are in the situation. This also could be equally bad. I used to touch my wife's buttons. I don't mean that insidiously, but like she would get really upset, but I'd be like, okay, I know what the pressure point is here, and I'm going to press that one a little bit more. So, yeah. So there's a moral obligation to all this as well, I think.
It's also productive to do that, and not, I don't mean in a malicious way, because I have all those friends that like, growing up and we're all guys and every guy has those friends that just push your buttons to get you elevated to then be like, whoa, and then we've all been in other things where it's a relationship where somebody is pushing your buttons to get a rise out of you so they can blame you and deflect from their own problems. And I think that's the number one thing is, for me, I'm with you and I'm connecting with you all the way through everything you're saying, Deevo. But my number one thing for me that I struggle with and got through in the past few years, darkest side, I'm not going to jump into it, but 3 years sober and stuff like that. So I got my own demons and I got, 2 marriages or two ex-wives and that's my life. You know what I mean? And in a nutshell, that's it. Now we have in past episodes, I dive deeper and I'm not going to waste time on that. But my point of what I'm trying to say is it's a way to be accountable for your past. But just like you said, a book that got me through that as well was The Trauma, the Body Keeps the Score. because you have to realize that it took years of me getting through the shame and guilt of realizing that I was trying to convince myself that I wasn't a failure, but I was fucking things up. And like that's a really rough transition mentally to get out of the guilt and the shame and come into the place where it's like I made mistakes, but I'm also learning how to live this life just like everybody else. And if I can learn from all of that and become better down the road, it's not something superficial or egotistical. It's to benefit myself and my family and my community around me to continue to evolve from that. And I don't mean evolve like Darwinism or anything like that. I mean literally in the mindset to go out every day. And when that happened, and I always give credit to Clifford as well. He was a big part of that. I met Clifford as a stranger on this episode as a guest, and here we have our own show. Like that's how Clifford and I met. I sent him one email and I said, or message, and I said, I'd love to have you on my show. That was it, one sentence. We hopped on for an hour, and what are we at, Clifford? Now almost a year and a half, or coming up on 2 years maybe now.
Yeah, 2 years.
That's phenomenal.
So it's one of those things where I'm curious too. Like I graduated college in 2008. And then when I got into it, I was corporate communications and public relations. I loved human connection and storytelling and all this stuff. And I've been doing this for 17 years at my business as well. And that's what we do. We do very similar things to you, but I also work it into the strategy and everything like that for the bigger picture as well. So it becomes a key component. But I want to tell you something that if anybody, I want you to give the resources too, but I want people that are anywhere like, how do I even get started in this? You know, that's the number one thing is I want us to really drill in because this is a really important conversation. Because I think a lot of people, and especially literally right now in the United States of America, there's a lot of people that are being faced with a mirror of their ideologies and their beliefs in themselves. And I think this is a really concerning time from an energy and from a motivational standpoint of progress, that people don't get stuck in a shame and guilt cycle and learn how to learn from it and evolve past it. So my one point is, this is probably not a technical resource, but what got me into this was the TV show Lie to Me. Have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't.
It came out in like 2009, and it's a FBI profiler, and basically he comes in and it goes so detailed into the show, and it's not a documentary; it's a regular dramatic show like TNT or something like that. But he goes through specifics of the body language and the demeanor and the tones, and teaches like during the show you learn so much about how to read the room and read the person that you can get those skills and be able to pivot in the moment. And that's kind of how we do this show. I mean, that's why this is all ad hoc, this is all improv, but it's there's no agenda. But in order to do that, you have to have those skills. And I want you to kind of talk about maybe like without giving the secret sauce, like how do you help people develop those skills, and what kind of are there leading questions that you pull it out of them, or is it a diagnosis type thing?
It's all of the above. There is no secret sauce because no two people are the same way. I think you sort of have to meet people where they are, and then be willing to receive coaching and feedback so that you can dive a little bit deeper. But for me, everything starts with a diagnostic. It's a self-developed diagnostic that I used on myself, and then I worked with some scientists and some neuroscientists and some psychologists and some therapists to sort of really refine it over the years. But it's a diagnostic. It's a discovery that I use, that I take every client through, just so that I can establish a baseline. And they're very pragmatic and principled questions. Some spirituality is involved with it, a lot of psychology, some psychoanalysts is involved. There's a bunch of different tool sets that I use depending upon what it is that we're going to be working on together, right? And then what those tools do for me is they establish a baseline of like, here's what I'm working with, right? So like anything, having an understanding of what we're stepping into the arena with gives me an understanding. It's like I'm a big time athlete. I played sports my entire life, and one of the things I always excelled at, I wasn't terribly athletic, but I'm a student of the game, and I would watch film like nobody else's business. I would know what the other team was doing before they even started to play. And so I'm a student of the game. And so I study things all the time. I'm always reading, always learning. And one of the things I do with my clients early on is I study and I learn so I can understand their patterns and their beliefs and their values. And so we do a values analysis, we do a belief metrics, we do Enneagram work, we do human design work. And all of these things start to paint a picture of their current baseline. And then again, once we have a baseline, we can start to really quickly see where the shadow work is revealing itself. Their beliefs are maybe out of alignment, they have their resonance, their factors, their values, all those different things, and then we start to work on those from there. But everything starts with sort of a discovery and a diagnostic.
That I also want to share too. One, thank you for telling us about your story and saying I went from pointing out there to pointing in here. Now I'm going to actually take a reverse on that. I started with pointing in here, to learning to point out there.
Hmm.
And what I started seeing, because I actually took too much ownership for things. I would own other people's stuff. I would like figure out like, okay, how do I make this work? How do I make this work? And listening to how you process and how your mind works, like, okay, I'm looking at the patterns. And going back to Tony Robbins is great at pattern recognition. And I go, wait a minute, this whole game is a game of pattern recognition. And we're always learning, we're always growing, we're always figuring things out. And there is no, I've got it. Like, I got something. That's it. That's all I know that I got. And now how do I solidify it? How do I create? How do I become the creator that I want to become? How do I have the great relationships? How do I have the great wealth? How do I have the great health? How do I have all of these things? And I go, we're all asking that same question and all coming about it with our perspective, because that's all we got until we have something different.
Mhm. So is there a question you wanted to ask there? All that
There was,
phenomenal.
but my wife started talking to me, so it
thought I heard
completely,
emails.
yeah, it's completely different. So
This is an interactive show, Deevo. We have a lot of. There's
There's always a woman distracting us, isn't there?
I love that. So what I wanted to ask you,
Stay on target, Clifford. Stay on target.
being a person of pattern recognition and seeing pattern recognition, do you ask questions to understand how they're seeing patterns on their journey?
It has to be from their point of view. Yeah. Everything has to come from their point of view, and that's an interesting conversation that we could talk about at another time if you want. But I think a lot of times we as entrepreneurs and business folks, we're always only looking at it from our lens, and we're not thinking about perception as reality. What does our buyer actually want out of this situation? What are they actually in need of? What are we not fulfilling for them? So the same thing has to come at, and again, I'm not a guru. I don't even know if I'm a coach. I am a reflector. That's how I sort of approach all this. I see myself as a mirror for you. I ask very interrogative and very, very provocative and sometimes irreverent questions that force you to actually get out of your own fucking way for a minute and think about how you're showing up in the world. So everything I do is from your lens, and then I'm going to reflect that back on this is what I heard, this is what I see, this is my perception of your reality you're sharing with me. Does this align with what you actually want out of this situation? And 9 out of 10 times they're going to be like, no way, that's not absolutely at all what I want. And I'm like, okay, so let's take that little morsel there and let's unpack that a little bit deeper. How can we reconfigure that so it's optimized for you, right? So yeah, everything has to be from your lens. If I were to take it from my lens, I mean, that's very skewed. I've got my own experiences, my own context, and my own warped way of viewing the world. So it's my job to sort of just reflect back what I'm hearing from you, and I can help you unpack all of that. Does that make better sense?
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I got to actually hop off, guys, because I have another call. But Deevo, it was a pleasure reconnecting with you, sir. Nate, appreciate you as always.
Yep.
Audience.
His wife is kicking him off.
Yes.
Take care, guys.
He's like, now I got to go faster. No, it's funny. We have this time slotted, and he's got a busy life with like speaking and doing all these engagements. So it's like we have the same standard time, but it's also a convergence time at the home. So it's always funny.
Well, I wasted like 10 minutes of your time, so sorry.
No, you're good, man. Hey, all right. So I want to kind of go in a little deeper because for you and I, you and I are very much aligned in the way that we go about things. And I'm not going to name anything, but I'm going to say in the past and somewhat recently, as well as other times in the past, I've been in situations as a strategy coach where I had to have those tough conversations with people and be a mirror. And I'm only now recently coming into the fact of I feel the same exact way as you, is that I have to be conscientious of the fact that I'm a polarizing person. Like you're either a diehard loyalist of me or you don't want me around you. And it's one of those things that it's not a pride thing of me, and I don't like take pride in that polarization, but the bluntness of my intention is to be clear and have clarity in how I want people to know and the accountability of what it is. Because I've worked with hundreds of brands over my 20 years in doing this. And in that time, that's the number one reason everything has always failed for these brands, because I was never truly honest because I was afraid to be honest with them. So I would placate them or I would try to find other leading ways. And now I just go right to it. And I'm like, and I right in the beginning, I set the tone of these engagements and these service agreements where I'm like, this is me. And I explained it to them, and I was like, my utmost intentions are completely positive, but this is business, and you have people depending on you. And if I see something that is a glaring issue that is going to derail your business, it is my moral obligation and my contractual obligation to redirect you and pivot you. That's why you hired me.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, I've had things where I had to fire clients because their reactions were not at a place where they were maintaining their emotions and their reaction and their line of sight to where it was so far that I wasn't going to be able to get them to me, so they weren't going to be aligned with what I needed to do. And it was something where they had to go get way back and get somebody else to help them before I could even help that.
Mm. So
it wasn't a question there as much as I was leading into just kind of open dialogue and strategy.
Yeah, no. So I was just kind of like processing where I wanted to begin with that. Well, first of all, it's a journey, so I wouldn't beat yourself up too much, right? So, especially as early entrepreneurs, and trust me, I've fallen into the same camp. It's like you have to precariously tiptoe along the lines of making money and not making money. And it's like, okay, as an early entrepreneur, like, dude, I just want to make some money. So, like, I was literally pimping myself out 24/7 to anybody who needed my services. And I own a photography studio, and I've talked about this before. Early on in that space, I was shooting anything and everything, like dog photos, baby photos, maternity photos, like everything you can possibly imagine. While that was really good for me to develop my skills, it also created buyer confusion. And then as I moved into my business as a coach, the same thing. I was like, I want to take on anyone and everybody. And I knew in the beginning, like I've called it 10 out of 10 times. I have literally an unproven track record intuitively on saying to myself, this is going to be a perfect client for me, or this is going to be an absolute nightmare. And early on in my career, I took on the nightmares regardless, just because I wanted to make money. And there are some arguments to be made. Okay, cool. Like you put yourself in the arena, you gain the experience, all that sort of thing. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that relationship became compromised. I wasn't able to deliver my best work. They weren't able to do the things that they were meant to do because there was just not an energetic alignment. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, you and I are just not on the same page philosophically, morally, whatever it is. I don't think that I'm your best fit. I would love to coach you, but I just don't feel like I'm going to be able to deliver 100%. And I don't think you're going to be able to receive me 100%. Therefore, you're not going to be able to do your best work as well. So I'm at that point now, and gratefully have been for some time. But dude, totally mad respect on that journey for you, because it just, you don't know what you don't know. And you're going to have experiences to figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And I think a lot of times people forget that, and they beat themselves up, and they have shame around it. It's like, man, you're just on a journey like everyone else. Like, take it for what it's worth. What could you have gleaned from those experiences to make you a better human going forward? And that's really how I see it now.
Yeah, I'm doing a little tweak moving forward this year where they have a certain thing where there's a list of questions and they're intentionally leading questions. And I like what you said earlier, where everything's not a textbook because everybody's experience is different and it has to come from their lens.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to do it in a discovery meeting in person. And then what I found is people, because they're making eye contact with you, or if it's over Google Meets or anything like that, they might say things because they're embarrassed or they don't want to admit their, different faults and things like that. But what I found is when it's an email and I'm like, hey, answer and fill out this survey most honestly possible, for some reason they're more, and it's not that they're misleading, they're not lying or anything like that, but the honesty and the transparency and vulnerability comes out more in a survey than it does in person because of that like competition of human being kind of thing. I mean, I feel like almost sometimes.
Interesting. Yeah, I take a body of work into consideration. I do have an onboarding form, but I always meet with people. I like to feel the energy of the room. I like to see how they respond to questions.
I'm the same way. Like when I'm in something, I dive in. Right now, I'm past couple of years big into the hemp THC beverage space. So got certified marijuana, all kinds of stuff, and just dive deep into that. But what I'm trying to say is there's a way that I think people need to kind of look at leading questions more importantly now. And I think we try to diagnose and we try to project our perspective onto people when we ask questions, whereas we're not pulling enough information from them without our bias. And I'm going to say this is a very broad stroke statement. This is not us in our profession. I'm just talking about society as a whole, because what I also want to do is while you're here, I want to use a couple minutes to kind of talk about how to connect with people. And I think one thing we're lacking in society is people understanding how to look past ideologies and actually connect to the common good of everybody and try to make some similarities. So just for example, like not professionally, but in your personal life, like when you meet a stranger, how do you go about connecting with that person to try to find some common interest?
Listen. It's really important to listen. I don't know that I used to be a listener. I think I used to be a talker more than I'm a listener. I like to listen now just to sort of see what people have to say and what they think. And you can read a lot between the lines if you pay attention and just really be very observant about stuff. But for me, I treat every human and this is not cliche. Like you can ask anybody, you can spend a day with me. Wherever I go, whether it's the grocery store or getting my propane tank filled or getting my tires fixed, I just treat people with the same respect that I would want to be treated. And it's amazing what happens when you just have conversations with people. I had a dude come over here last week fixing my smoke detectors. Whenever I would turn on the stove in my kitchen, the smoke detectors would go off all over the house. And it's like that's obnoxious for someone who likes to cook all the time. Anyway, he's here. I bring him a cup of coffee and I'm just sitting here like chatting with him. And anyway, I'm having a meeting with him next week because he's trying to launch a new business. And so for me, everything is an opportunity to learn from somebody, learn something new, or make a connection with somebody that you may not have had before. That's why I podcast. The primary reason I got into podcast is that I realized that my circle was not strong enough. And so I set out on a mission 7 years ago to start holding podcasts with people who were doing really cool things on the planet so that I could sort of learn from them and perhaps make a friendship with them, build connections with them. And it's just amazing, man. Like every person you meet is an opportunity to pick something up to add to your belt, add to your arsenal. Like a new friend, a new relationship, a new collaborative partner, a new podcast guest. I don't know. Like everything for me is just potential. Like the entire world is an experience and potential. That's just how I see the world. That's what, if you could look at my lenses, one side's experience, one side's potential. And that's how I view the world.
Yeah, since I flipped that switch in sobriety, I've been the same way. I got back and back to photography as well. In high school, I was a darkroom guy. Like I was big into photography my whole life. And I got away from it when I got drinking really bad. And recently I've gotten back into photography and I'm like, it's amazing and what it does is I take photos, but I'm taking photos of everyday things. And my photos of everyday things is to show the beauty in the everyday things because I'm on the road all day long. So you drive your car and you forget. So all my photography is what I capture when I pull over on the side of the road randomly.
I love that.
And that's
Share your stuff with me. I'd love to see it.
I will. Yeah, I'll connect with. I reached out on LinkedIn, and then I'll reach out and connect with you on social media. That's where I put everything up on the other. I don't put it on LinkedIn. I put it on my Instagram, and Facebook, and TikTok.
I'm curious, how did you get into alcohol, and then why did you decide to get out of alcohol?
Yeah, funny story is I actually was just on I was on a beer podcast in Philadelphia that just got released yesterday, and I was telling the story is I was working at Hollywood Video. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So yeah, purple shirt and everything like that. And I was in college. I was 19 years old and went for spring break, came back and the store was closed and everything was emptied and there was no job anymore. And then all of a sudden a beer wholesaler was opening up. So I was 19 years old, started working in beer and then just kept advancing through sales, marketing, things like that while I was in school going full time. And whenever basically run through all the way from literally working in breakage on the ground floor in the warehouse to eventually by 2017, I was the vice president of a $100 million wholesaler.
Wow.
And that's one of those things too, where it's fun when you do pursue something and are successful at it, when you get to that senior level at a very young age in your late 20s and you're managing 50 to 100 people that are older than you. That's a whole nother mindset shift as well.
I was looking up, and I can't find it, but I had on my podcast. I'll get you this information. I can't remember the name of his company, but he runs a I think it's called Free Spirits. Yeah, Free Spirits. He runs a non-alcoholic beverage company called Free Spirits, and he'd be a really cool guest to have on your show. I'll put the two of you in touch.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have another show that's just on beverage founders and things like that. It's called readytodrinkpodcast.com. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So he has a really cool story as well. Just a really cool guy. And he'd be a good guest for you. I'll connect the two of you.
Yeah, a lot of people find it weird. And the reason too in the beginning, the people find weird is my sobriety. Yet I also still have alcohol in my portfolio, and I spend every day in bars and restaurants and breweries. And everybody's like, "That's so odd." And I'm like, my dream is to find products and get them in the same network, so that somebody that's sober can come to the bar and enjoy themselves just like their buddy and not have to feel bad. I spent time in AA. I went to rehab. I feel for everybody that was in that with me that's still living in their basements and in their houses, afraid to reemerge back into society because they're afraid that they'll fall apart. And that's a thing that I want to empower people and inspire people to get up and re-socialize. And just because you're sober and your buddy drinks doesn't mean you guys can't hang out. And it's like but that also is internal. Like that discipline is internal.
I was
like
just going to say, give your help.
Walling up is something that must be overcome. And you must overcome that. You can't live your life in isolation to protect yourself from the sobriety and the things, because that just transcends everything else.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I don't have any experience with it. I don't have an addictive personality in that regard. I've tested this out over and over. Um, but the fact that you're able to do that says a lot about who you are and your discipline and your self-awareness and sort of like how you show up in life. So that says a lot that you're able to have broken that for not only for 3 years, but then still be around it and not be influenced by it. And again, you know, everybody does what they do. Like you are what you are, but I really, one of the things that drives me bonkers is when people just tell me it's like, well, that's how I am. I can never change it. And I was like, dude, you can change it. You can literally, we now know scientifically that you can literally epigenetically change the makeup of your DNA so that you can show up differently in life. You could physically change how you look just by how your behavior is or your gratitude, as opposed to being like, I was having this conversation with this woman last night. I'm back in the dating pool again. Well, anyway, and which is so ironic to me because she is helping other people with their mindset, and yet the entire conversation it was just nothing but negativity. And I was like, I have to call you out on something just for a minute, if you would. I'm like, first of all, would you like some feedback? And she's like, well, it depends. I'm like, okay, well, just yes or no. Do you want some feedback? Yeah, first flag. I learned a long time ago from another woman. There's a pattern here. Where's Clifford? We need some pattern recognition here. I learned a long time ago from another woman I was playing around with in Charleston, and she was a yogi, but she was very un-yogi in all of her behaviors. And I was like, there's like a contradiction in a lot of things here from you. Again, I don't have a filter, so I just sort of come out with and say things. I was not reading the room, but anyway. And she was like, you know what? If I wanted your opinion, I would have asked it. So you need to learn to not give opinions unless someone asks for them. And I was like, fair enough. I actually accept that. You're still not very yogi though. And so like this date is over. But anyhow, so I asked this woman last night. I was like, do you want some feedback? And she's like, well, it depends on the feedback. I'm like, just yes or no. Do you want some feedback? And she's like, yes, I'll take it. I was like, you coach people on mindset and positivity and sort of manifesting their dream lives, but you are literally one of the most negative people I have ever spoken to. You have a dour perspective on literally everything, and you interrupt me every time I talk. So it's like, I'm just going to tell you, like, first and foremost, I don't see anywhere this relationship is going to continue. I'm just going to be very honest with you right now. But secondly, like, there's something worth examining there. Like, there's something worth examining there. And maybe it's not my place to say that, but I can't help myself. But anyway, when people say that to me, it's like, oh, just who I am. And she said that to me. Well, that's my personality. Well, you probably shouldn't be coaching people on mindset then. I'm just sorry. You probably shouldn't be. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that. Maybe that's overly judgmental, but nonetheless, anyhow, I digress.
No, okay. But there's merit in it. It's not judgmental, actually. It's actually a helpful tweak, because I mean, I was that person. Okay. The reason I have, a history and all those things of failed marriages and relationships in my personal life wasn't because I was some horrible person intentionally. What I was not seeing the world the same way that I do now. And it literally took a massive evolution of ripping myself apart. I was suicidal at different times during the process of that evolution. And I think that's the other thing is the reality that it isn't easy. And that's what I think is the biggest thing, is people think, oh, I can just wake up in the morning and have a positive attitude and carry that on every day. No, you have to work it. It's a decision every minute of every day, of every hour, of every conversation, of every interpretation of life. That's where it's a myriad of decisions all day long. It's not one day you wake up and you're finally evolved.
Well said. Well, some people are just naturally more pleasantly what's the word I'm looking for? Some people are just more pleasant than others. But you're right. Like, there's no reason why you can't be more pleasant. You just have to make it a habitual practice to catch yourself in the moment and realize that you're showing up not optimally. But I know some people who are just pleasant people. Like, they're always happy. They're always smiley. They just sort of have a really good disposition. That's the word I was looking for. But you're right. Like, it does take work. You can't just expect that one day is enough and then you're going to be happy for the rest of your life. Like, every day you have to wake up. And I think really the key piece of what you just said, and the cornerstone for me, has been changing my perspective from I'm owed something to I'm grateful for whatever it is that I have. And gratitude for me, and it may sound very benign and simple, but when you get to the root of what gratitude actually is, if you stop to really think about it for a minute, you're not of the mindset where things are always going to go wrong or could go wrong or might go wrong. Those things don't exist in your brain system anymore, because every moment of your life, you're just sort of grateful for what you have. And that doesn't mean you have to be inauthentic about it. It just means rather than being a bitch or a dick and complaining about everything, you just be like, man, I'm really grateful for this opportunity to show up on your podcast today. Maybe you're a sucky host, but guess what? Maybe one person heard this show and I was able to sort of get something out of that or change their life or whatever. So I'm just grateful for, and you're not a sucky host, but I'm grateful for the opportunity, right? Like I'm literally grateful for, I try to practice gratitude in every single thing I do now. Whatever, even if it's an argument with my daughter last week, I was like, wow, because my daughter actually put me in my place. And I was like thinking about it afterwards. I'm like, you know what? I kind of was a dick the way I handled that situation. I could have been a little bit more patient with her. I just assumed that she would see it from my lens because I'm the dad. And oftentimes, especially as parents, we do that a lot. We're like, why can't you see it like I can, you idiot? Bro, I'm 3 times your age. I have 10 times the amount of experience as you do. And so sure as hell, she's never going to see it from my lens right now. So like, I was really grateful that she put me in my place and bitch slapped me and made me learn something from that moment. And like, I'm a better person for it now. So anyhow.
How old's your daughter?
I have a 19 and a 17-year-old.
Nice. We have a 11, 14, 15, and 20.
Oh, you got a crew, man.
Yeah, so,
Bravo for that just alone. I'm one of 12, so I know what that consists of.
yeah, my dad's one of 13, and my mom's one of 5 or 6. I'm trying to remember.
Wow.
Now. Yeah, so
Wow.
I'm used to I was an only child adopted, so it was like there you go right there, personal experience. I'm in a giant family. We all come together. Our life experiences couldn't be any different. Like
That's
I'm
wild.
adopted. Everybody else is blood. You know, I'm an only child. Every other one of my dad's brothers and sisters has 4 to 5 to 6 kids apiece. You know what I mean? It's like we all come from these different places, and that's like back to that beauty of life. Is like if we can be, like you said, be open, be listening, be able to learn from other people's experience. You don't have to go through the trials and tribulations. If you can catch up and actually like listen to somebody else, you can avoid it. You know what I mean? Like I'm a hot stove guy. I grab the hot stove all day long just to make sure. I'm like, one of those times the hot stove might not be that hot, but it still always is hot. But at the same time, like that's also Achilles heel for me, because the amount of times, like you said, when you're building your business, I've been doing this for 17 years. I own my business 100%, and I'm one of one. I bring independent contractors and other companies in for special projects like an A-team. But at the same time, the buck stops with me every time. And I love what you're talking about with your daughter, because mine, my 15-year-old and 14-year-old especially, they're very keen and very keen in taking on that part of my personality, where when I'm out of line now, because they know I'm actively continuing to try to be a better person, putting more good out there, they're not afraid to tell me like, hey, you're slipping.
That's great.
I know I'm going back to somebody else, and I immediately just repivot. And even my girlfriend, we live together. We have a lot of great conversations, and we're very in depth. She also owns a business, so we connect on that as well. She does this. We just had the same conversation last night where I went through an entire meeting that went south with a client, and then she went through line by line and was like, tweak this here, tweak that there. And it wasn't some controlling, manipulative way. It was like a very helpful way for me to see how my directness can be seen by her, because she knows my good intentions. But my directness from the stranger can go south quickly.
There's so many things to unpack there. The last one I'll start with. Having a good woman in your corner, man. You know, there's the saying.
I'm gonna say that about now, and I'm not gonna speak ill of the past. I'm gonna own this, just so it's not taken out of context for anybody listening, is that in the past I was not who I am today. So my past marriages are not blamed on my exes. I'm not that type of man. I was not the same person, so it can't even be a correlation to how I live life today. So I want to lead into that, but I want that disclaimer for my own stuff, so nothing's taken out of context.
Yeah, but even those women I have a failed marriage, even those women taught you something. You learned something from those experiences about yourself. And again, that's the whole point of it. Every single moment of our life is an experience and an opportunity to learn something and grow and expand, or not, should you choose. But those failed marriages, there's an argument to be made that you would not be the man you are today had you not gone through those 2 experiences to learn the duality of what you don't like about yourself or what you don't like in a partner and whatever it is. And then now you've taken that because of self-awareness and you've carried that into your current partnership, and you're probably putting off a different vibration than you did 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And so you're attracting a different type of person into your life because of that. And so you're now attracting a woman who is in good harmonious balance with you, it sounds like. And so like what I was going with that first statement is, you know, if there's an argument to be made for the traditional family structure, man, woman, masculine, feminine, that dynamic and that balance, is that a woman has such different perspective than a man does, for starters. But the way that they can make us such better people it should never be understated. And I'm not, that's a whole different conversation. But man, I have been blessed to have some amazing women in my life. And every single one of them, whether the relationship lasted forever or not, and it didn't up to this point, I've learned something fantastic about how to show up as a better man, as a better human, as a better partner, as a better lover, as a better father. And so those are all just opportunities that I'm just magnanimously grateful for, because I'm the same as you. I would not be who I am today had I not had any of those experiences first and foremost. So I'm grateful for it all.
Absolutely. And I recently, my kid's mom and I have been having a lot of conversations, to the point where she, even this past weekend, was like, okay, I'm finally seeing it. It's like 3 years in, she's like, I'm seeing the consistency. I'm seeing what's going on. She's like, I'm seeing, and then now we're eliminating those biases from our history and trying to rebuild a new co-parent.
That's great, man.
Kind of future going forward. And
pat yourself on the back. That's great.
Exactly. And that's been a lot of fun, because we've both gotten to learn a lot about each other on it. And it's a prideful moment for both of us as far as that goes. And it's better for the kids. You know what I mean?
I was going to say, yeah, the win-win scenario there is your children don't have two bickering parents. So well done.
We just spent 3 full days in a gym together for my daughter's volleyball tournament. Yeah.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. And, look, the simple truth of it is that not everybody are meant to be together. That's all there is to it. And sometimes we make radical decisions that are not in our best interest, but, we made them. And so we just have to make the best of it. And I for that reason, when I got divorced, people were like, dude, what are you doing? You're breaking up your family. Yeah, I am breaking up my family, but my wife and I don't get along. We don't see eye to eye philosophically, values wise. We're just two different people. We've grown completely apart. I'd rather my children see that I made a conscious choice to be a better man and a better human, than rather to keep them in this volatile situation, because it was volatile, not physically, but it was just volatile. It was disharmonious. And why would you want to perpetuate disharmonious in your life? Like, that's what leads to disease. And I didn't want my children to see that and grow up with that as their model. So whether it was the right decision or not, I still stand by it. And I think I'm a better human because of it, because it was the catalyst, to be honest with you. My divorce was the catalyst that woke me up. It made me actually look at my life and be like, okay, there's something that's not working out right now. This is like the third or fourth pattern that has repeated itself. So something is not right in the situation. I have to take a peek at that. And so I'm grateful for that opportunity. Even the fact that it caused me a couple of years of misery and a shit ton of money, I'm still grateful for it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something as we're closing out here, with Kelly and I. It's with my girlfriend. We've known each other since we were 7. We grew up together.
Oh, wow.
And then I went away for high school and then life and college, and we didn't talk. From 12 or 13, whenever you start college, up until almost coming up on a year ago in February. So we followed each other online, but never engaged, never spoke, and just kind of went away. And so now it's talk about the beauty of life. And I get chills kind of telling the story. Her and I joke around, because had we met a couple months prior to when we met, or had we met a years prior to reconnected, she and I both would be like, this would have never worked. This was never an opportunity. It only is an opportunity because of both of our mindsets right now.
I love the fact that you guys came back together. That's brilliant.
Yes.
There's a saying in Buddhism that when the student is ready, the messenger arrives. And, that's a perfect example of that. You're putting off again, I didn't know you 10 years ago, but I would suspect by the basis of this conversation so far that you're putting off a completely different energy than you were 10 years ago. And consequently, you're attracting completely different opportunities. And as within, as without, so within, so without, as above, so as below. Like, you are literally, your entire life is going to be a manifestation of how you view the world, how you view yourself, how you're showing up internally, and the work you're doing is going to manifest itself in whatever it is you receive on the outside, whether it's the people that are in your life, whether it's the opportunities that clients that book you, the wife that found you, whatever it is. Whoever you are inside is going to be a complete duality balance on the other side of what you're receiving. And that's an indefatigable law of the universe, and it cannot be changed. And so if for no other reason, for selfish reasons, people should take a look at that, which is why I got into this work in the first place, is because I know the impact it had on me. And I know that if it worked on me, because I was a completely messed up quagmire, and if I could fix me, bro, I can help anybody get fixed. And so it behooves you to sort of ask the question, without sounding terribly existential, who am I today? And am I satisfied with how I'm showing up in the world? And if you're not, bro, do some work. You're going to have to do some work.
Exactly. I don't normally plug other people's books during this, but I actually just recently read Ground Game by Brene Brown.
Oh yeah.
And I figured this is very topical to what we're talking about here. So if anybody else has not read it or listened to the audiobook, definitely recommend checking that out as well if you enjoyed this conversation so far. But Deevo, I want to kind of close out here, and I'm going to tell you that we're going to start having some roundtable stuff this year and a couple different guests. I want to definitely have you back for that. And I just love this conversation. I reached out to you on LinkedIn. I'm going to connect with you on social media. So before I close out, like, just give everybody your contact, or not your cell phone or anything like that, but tell people where to find you online and be able to connect with you, whether it's for your services or just to reach out to connect with you and build somebody in their network.
Well, ladies, if you're listening, you can find me on. No, I'm just joking.
If you want an evolved man in your life.
The website is thebrandstoryteller.com. Everything is there. If you want to connect with me on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, it's all from my website. My podcast is there if you're interested, and you should be a guest, by the way.
I would love to. Please send me an invite immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, thebrandstoryteller.com. That's the best place to just find me, and you can connect with me from there anywhere else.
Excellent. Yeah, yesterday's episode that published on that other one, that was my first podcast I've ever done on somebody else's. So I'm all about it. So yeah, definitely let me know if you have any opportunities and openings. I'm going to close out with what I usually do. I want to remind everybody that there were no questions. There was no script. There was nothing done in advance. We didn't steer the direction. We didn't prepare the content. We didn't go to lunch or breakfast or anything like that. We are complete strangers. We weren't even connected on LinkedIn until this episode started when I reached out. And I want everybody to know that this is that easy. Like, the hard part of evolving as a human being, that is hard. Changing your mindset is hard. It's all worth it, but it's hard work. At the same time, what's easy is not being a piece of shit every day and connecting with people and looking people in the eye and holding the door and asking somebody, when you say how you doing, actually fucking mean it and actually wait and listen and wait. Exactly. Deevo, man, thanks so much. This couldn't be more of a timely episode to get out in the world today and put some positivity out there and allow people to understand the expectations that we all should have on this crazy ass life that we all live here. And, there's more in common than there is good. And yeah, there's a lot of people that'll rub you the wrong way, but keep peeling that onion. It's going to make you cry every once in a while, but there's a lot of layers to it.
Like that analogy. Well played.
Thanks.
Thank you for the opportunity, man. It was a great conversation. Tell Clifford thanks. And I'd love to do it again, whatever you have going on. And please include me. And then I'll have Marielle get out an email out to you to get on the show for us. And then we'll do that as well. Where are you in the country? Sorry.
Oh yeah. So I'm based between West Virginia and Pennsylvania. I toggle between the two. I'm on the road all the time. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm originally from the Philadelphia area.
Yeah, if you ever make your way south, we're not that far apart, so we could catch up.
Where are you?
We could get a free spirit together. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, perfect. I actually go down there every once in a while, so I'm definitely going to reach out to you when I go out there so we can meet up in person.
Please do, man. I'll take you out we have a really good dining cuisine here now in Charlotte. It's a really good food market, so I'll take you out for a good meal.
Yeah, I have a couple good hemp THC brands at Copac down there as well. So I was actually down in Greenville and driving through there a while back.
That's cool. Yeah, great. Well, cool. Well, man, I appreciate you having me on the show. Thank you. It was a great conversation and refreshing conversation at that.
Absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to many more, buddy. You have a good rest of your day, man.
See you, brother.